The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. It is really difficult to grasp for people the idea that there is no self. But then when they see it for themselves, then there's a very shocking realization happening in the mind that makes you feel like you can never really connect with anybody anymore, and you cannot even connect with yourself anymore, because all you can find is a sense of extreme emptiness, an emptiness that is so alone because there's nobody there that could actually be solidified and made whole. It is the consequence of looking internally so much and wondering so much, who you are, that at the end of the day you notice that there's no way you could possibly define yourself, because a word like your name is clearly not who you are. All belief structures and ideas are clearly not who you are. If you think about your past, then you might ask, what past is you? And if all of the past is you, then you are also right here, right now. But then aren't you not more now than in the past? And then it becomes this weird sensation that experience is almost like diffused with all of your life. But what you really are is like this diffused sense of experience instead of any concrete point of experience. And then there is, just this utter emptiness you fall into because you kind of wish that somebody could hug you or be close to you and make you feel, real and mattering, which is also the reason why we look for love and we look for compassion and we look for somebody to just touch us, because it solidifies our sense of realness. But once you start to identify with the sense of awareness itself, then there's a strong sense of unreality to it all, because you can never really like bridge the gap between you and another person. When I had the sensation that I didn't really know who I am, or that there is no self, I kind of started to scoff at myself. Like I thought, well, of course I knew who I am. I am me, of course. Like, it is such an obvious thing. How could I not be me? And how can you like tell me that I don't exist or that myself is an illusion? It seemed so silly to me the first time I met this concept, but then immediately noticed that I could not really define myself in a way that didn't seem like self-evident. So my scientific mind wanted to kind of prove that I am me, or kind of find evidence for the fact that I am me. But you brush up against something that is so tautological, so self-defined, that it is absolutely impossible. So then you must wonder, okay, in which way is the sense of self an illusion? And it is easy to say things like the sense of self that you are, your thought is an illusion, or that you are your belief systems is an illusion. And the moment I extrapolate the sense of self into some sort of concept like beliefs or thoughts, then it makes more sense, right? Like, because of course you're not your thoughts, of course you're not like your beliefs. Like, it is a bit more intuitive. But then the question becomes, okay, so what are you then? I am the body, right? But then, okay, the body regenerates itself all the time, and there's not really any atom, or like almost no atoms that stay the same. And it's like, okay, so if I'm not the body, then am I my past? Or am I the actions of my past? And then it's like, okay, but no singular action does define you. In the same way, no atom in your body defines you. In the same way, no thought defines you. So what is the identity carrier that moves everything through time and space and gives you the sense of I-ness that is always present, all the time? And then if you keep introspecting and wondering about, okay, so where is the self? Where am I? Then there's nothing there. There's actually nothing there. And it becomes kind of abstract to phrase it this way, but I find that it is actually useful because, the real way to think about what you are is the number 0. So you are like a prism of zero that lets all potential shine through you. And then the light that you see is all your conscious experience. But what you actually are is nothing at all. And it is a paradox because in the way I'm defining this, you are nothing at all. So you are nothingness manifest. And this makes sense because if you experience everything as empty and you don't know how to orient or find yourself, but even within the sense of nothingness, you experience so many sensations and concepts and reality models, then you are whatever makes everything appear in reality. So you truly are nothing and experience all potential and all consequences, all numbers of zero as a consequence. This sounds very conceptual if you have never come in contact with your own emptiness, but if you've come in contact with your own emptiness, then even the sentence coming in contact with your own emptiness, it doesn't really compute because there's nobody to come in contact with anything. Like, this is how radical this idea of zero ontology is. In the past, I've called zero ontology the reason for why anything exists instead of nothing. But you can also just spin it around and say that, because zero exists, everything else must exist, but the root of all of this existence is the number zero. And this is where you find yourself in. When you meditate in your direct awareness, you can have the sense of like inexperiencer. And when you have the sense of inexperiencer, you might still feel like reality is empty because you have kind of emptied out the more like, let's say, superficial layers of belief systems and lenses with which you viewed the world and your identification with the past or your identification with the future. And when they start to like dissolve, you might still, go closer towards the sense of emptiness or zeroness, but in reality, you're more like at a 0.8 or 0.7. And what this then creates is the sense of tremendous loneliness, because now you are not really emptied out from these false identifications, but you still have a sliver of identification. And for many, this is their sense of consciousness, their sense of awareness, their sense of being, and then their I feeling attaches to qualia. It attaches to the present moment and tries to solidify it in order to not become fully zero. So to not empty out completely, you still identify with some sort of, qualia field. And when you do this, you are kind of closer to, reality in a way, because you are more in contact with what is immediately true. But then you still have this split because you will feel isolated, as you still have a sense of self that is looking for something else to mend it. So you likely are chasing very transcendental experiences. You might still be chasing relationships. You might still be chasing transcendence. You might still be chasing that this feeling of emptiness goes away. And the only way it can go away is if you keep investigating where is your sense of I coming from and where is your mind still identifying with things that are not you. When you go through this entire process, then what is so odd about it is that at the end of finding your zero nature, you become everything equally. And you kind of identify with nothing, but you then also identify with absolutely everything. And identifying with absolutely everything is kind of a lie. It's just that this is how you have to say it in order to make sense to anybody, because if not, you cannot really communicate. But the way I would describe it is that there's not really any distance between anything. So when I hear my voice and I feel the gravity below my feet and I see or sense the light entering my eye, or what is at the right side of my... I just broke everything. What is at the right side of my peripheral vision, or what is immediately in front of me, there's not really distance there. Like the sense of distance itself is an illusion because it all happens in immediate perception. There's not really distance there if you focus on the quality of experience. You can also meditate on this when you hear something. Like, where is this voice happening? If you listen to this audio on like headphones, then it is probably more clear cut to say, yeah, this is happening inside my head. But this is not how we render sound normally. If you hear something outside of you, like birds chirping outside, then you are experiencing the sound waves coming from outside within your body, and they are like happening in your ear. But factually, the way you experience it is from the outside. So you hear something from the outside in your own body, but where is it actually happening now? Is it happening within your body or is it happening outside of your body? You cannot really locate it because there's not really a distance between the outside experience of the thing and the internal rendering of the thing, because they just immediately happen, within you or outside of you. There's not really a distinction within the self, because all is self. The question of your own identity and the question of where are you located is the desire of the ego to not be exactly the same as everything else, to have the ability to distinguish itself from the outside world. And in some survival sense, it is important that you are aware that your body is not the same as like the bird's body, right? But this is not what the ego is. You can have this understanding of your body as like a different machinery without the ego. The ego is a conceptual overlay that creates distance within experience that doesn't actually exist. It creates the false idea that there is a self inside of your head to whom experiences are happening to. When, if you contemplate this long enough, there is nobody to whom experiences are happening to, and experiences are happening within of themselves. You can focus on the fact that there's no sensation in your experience that can sense another sensation. So all these like different senses that I just talked about, like the light hitting my eye, my feet touching the ground, like they all are experiencing themselves. There's not an arrow moving outside experiences into my body. They are self-pointing. And you can test this with literally anything. Like you hear a sound and like the sound is itself. You smell something and the smell is itself. And you see something and the sight is itself. There's no arrow moving from one way to another, but the arrow is self-pointing. Because all that exists is this self-pointed, recursive nature of things. And what the ego tries to do is it tries to interject itself within it to create a sense of separation between it all. And from this, framework of noticing that everything is pointing to itself, you start to feel, okay, wait, so the external world isn't actually real. The same way that there is no self internally, there's not really an external world in some real objective way, because it is all, self-defined and self-created. And we can even go as agnostic as to say, we don't know if it is true or not. But experientially, from like your own reality modeling, this is clearly what is happening underneath the layer of the ego. And it makes a lot of sense that if your psychology constructs this sense of separation within your own experience, that then, as a consequence, when this drops away and you notice, okay, this was like an operating thing within my psyche, that what then comes after is closer to reality as you then drop filters. And this is precisely how it feels like. It feels like, oh wow, this is how always things have been like. And I just had a filter on it that made me focus too much on my own thoughts, or it made me focus too much on, some conceptual idea of what I am instead of what I actually am. And this becomes especially pressing when you have strong emotions, because then we want to run away from the emotion, and we particularly don't want this like recursive loop feeling. We don't want the emotion to be there just for what it is, but we want to run away from the emotion to experience something else because the emotion is very uncomfortable. If you let everything be in this self-recursive loop, then you are accepting all sensations exactly for how they are. And the ego doesn't want that, because the ego wants to control sensations. It wants to control experience and makes it so that everything runs according to what the ego expects things to be like. And then there's this feeling that you need to be able to escape your body somehow, and you need to be able to mend reality to your own liking, and if not, it is unacceptable. So the moment you start to notice that there is no sense of self, you open up all this madness in a way, because it is not how humans are used to experience things like, as society has made it so that the sense of separation is the normal way of life. But once this drops and all the sense of inevitable experiences move through you, then you feel, oh wait, this was actually the natural way of things. This was actually the natural way of things since I'm a child, and I kind of unlearned this, or I forgot about it, and now it is very obvious that the emptiness that I experience is the nature of at least myself. The self at the end of the day then just becomes a way to refer to this holistic field in which your experience happens. So if I say you, I still know what I'm referring to. From my point of view, it is your body and your psyche included within that body, and your life trajectory and the stuff that you have done, right? It's the holistic thing of all of it together manifested in the present moment experience. So there might come a point in your life where where saying I feels very unnatural, because you lost the identification with the word I. So all the associations around the word I stop meaning anything to you, because they kind of stopped existing. The sense of belief structures, the sense of a permanent self, the sense of immortality, even the sense of mortality. Like there's so many things that are enveloped in the word I, that once you see that there is no self, the identification drops. And then you kind of want to communicate the fact that you have no I, and you want to kind of, make it clear that you do see reality for how it is actually like. Until you are integrated enough that you then start to say I, like any normal human does, because it is very obvious what it refers to. It is the entire machinery all together in this present moment, and it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. What makes it complicated is the identifications that you have with it unconsciously, and to keep plugging them, even if you think you already understand or you already have seen the empty nature of the self. I go deeper on these topics in my Substack. I've been working a lot lately, so I haven't come to publish the article that I'm currently planning, but there's a lot in the making. So subscribe. You subscribe. So what else did I want to say? I wanted to say that if you are very scared from this realization of no self, and it is liberating a ton of fear within you, then there is really no other way around it but to feel it. There's like all instincts that want you to move away from this fear are the instincts of the ego trying to grab onto a sense of self and to identify with something. And fear has a very strong pull to it. Like it's very easy to identify with fear, because fear is the entire thing that causes this divide and this ripple between one experience and another. Everything that you kind of want to run away from, you intuitively don't acknowledge as a part of yourself. And when you acknowledge it as a part of yourself and you don't separate one experience with another, then you can come to this holistic understanding of the self, because now you don't really prefer one sensation over another, or you don't think that the light is more you than the darkness, or whatever. but all becomes neutralized in a sense of qualia that, is where the experience of the zero nature of your being is happening. And I find this idea of being a zero kind of intellectually helpful if you are able to embody or contemplate this paradox instead of intellectually rejecting it. If you don't understand how I can say these things in a meaningful way, then I recommend you watch this video next, where I explain the idea of the tautology that the mind can't handle.